In this video, I'm going to be addressing a concern that a viewer had that relates to safety when throwing a punch. And it's something that I didn't mention really in my videos. I didn't mention at all, to be honest, so here it is. So when throwing a punch, the concern was that I was not talking about keeping a straight wrist that's locked. The thing is, when a lot of people throw a punch, they're here and their wrist is already wobbly before it hits something. So when their wrist is wobbly, it's going to curve down most of the time. And that's what I feel like happened to me. My wrist would curve down and you end up spraining it. You don't want your wrist to go off to the sides, up and down. You want to keep it locked and flexed. And it could take some time of you maybe hitting a bag to be able to work out those muscles around your wrist for you to feel strong enough to be able to hit harder and harder and harder each time. And really, your wrist can't take your full power punches over and over and over again. You do have to be considerate of your own body when practicing. But yes, it is a great safety concern that was brought up. My idea of this whole concept of keeping your wrist locked is that it depends. You have to break the rules sometimes. When you throw an uppercut, you want to curve your wrist to get those knuckles to meet what you're trying to meet. So you're curving here, and this is still locked. This is still locked. Is it easier for maybe the wrist to get folded in? Yes. Yes, I'll agree on that. It doesn't really happen so much with uppercuts. You don't really see that in boxing where people will throw an uppercut and they'll lose their ability to throw a punch again because their wrist is sprained. So as long as you're still keeping it locked and it's still flexed, you're keeping it in a certain position, you can break the rules a bit. When you're throwing a hook, you can curve the wrist more to get more momentum, more inertia, more damage into your punch. And when you're throwing this uppercut too, you're curving it. Let me show you more what I mean. It's common to see in punches when people throw them for the wrist to go downward a bit. You just miss, and now you're using your arm to stretch those ligaments out, and that's what's going to cause the sprain. So you want to be here with a straightened out wrist, or if you are going to add a curve to your wrist, there's a little bit of a bend here for maybe a hook. You're still keeping it firm. This is still not going to move. And in reality, I'm using my knuckles to use the point of impact right there, and I don't have to rotate my wrist anymore. I don't have to go this way because I know how much I need to be able to curve my knuckles into something. And I'm not going beyond that. Do I run the risk of someone meeting my punch halfway and me not being all the way tensed up how I'm supposed to, and now I have a curvature and now I'm going to get a sprain? Yes, there's always a risk of that. There's a risk of that too when you're throwing a straight punch and you're here and someone meets you halfway and you're not flexed all the way either. You might get that sprain. It's all a risk, and it's knowing what you're capable of, knowing what your body's conditioned to and what it can handle. Because even with an uppercut, you are curving that wrist up a little bit to get your knuckles through. But you're keeping it tight. You're keeping a firm wrist and it's locked. It's locked into place. Overall, I should have talked about you all keeping a straight locked wrist at the very beginning of my videos. It is a great safety concept to think about when you're throwing these punches. Thank you for the viewer that mentioned it. If you see other tips or tricks that I need to be talking about to people or things that you want to learn about, go ahead and put it in the comments. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel.